All right, so this is lesson 4. So we are moving into lesson 4, which is multiplying mixed numbers. So you're still just multiplying with fractions, but we are multiplying with mixed numbers now. So still following the same rules, we're just going to go a little bit more in depth. So in the real world link, it says the eyeball of an Atlantic giant squid is about 12 times as large as the average human eyeball. The average human eyeball is 1 1/4 inches across. It says use the bar diagram to compare the average size of a human eyeball to the average size of an Atlantic giant squid's eyeball. So here's the human's eyeball, here's the squid's. So this entire thing is the squid's, whereas this is just the humans. So it says use the diagram above to compare the average size of the Atlantic giant squid's eyeball to the average size of the human eyeball. It says use repeated addition. So if we go another one, that's 1 1/4. So altogether that would be 2 1/2. So another one, 1 1/4, 1 1/4, 1 1/4. So that'd be 2 1/2, 5, 7 1/2, 9, so basically we gotta get 12 across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Because it's got to be 12 times as big. So it says write a multiplication expression that shows the size of the Atlantic squid's eyeball. So if we were doing multiplication here, you would actually be doing 1 1/4 times 12, or 12 times 1 1/4, same thing. So it says write the multiplication expression from exercise 2 using improper fractions. So we're going to change this to be 12 over 1. And now we got to change this back into an improper fraction. Now remember, to do that, you take the whole number, the 1, times the denominator. So 1 times 4, so that'd be 4. Then you add the numerator, so 1, that'd be 5, and keep the denominator. So let me say that again. So you take the whole number times the denominator, so 1 times 4, plus the numerator, plus 1, so that'd be 5, all over the same denominator, so 4. So we have 5 over 4 times 12 over 1. So that's how you would write that. Now, let's go on to the next page. So it says multiply a fraction in a mixed number. So what you're going to have to do when you get a mixed number is change it into an improper fraction. So the first step here is to always change the mixed number into an improper fraction and then multiply. Excuse me. And then write it out in simplest form. So, number 1 here, we have 1/3 and 1 3/4. So, like I said, my first step is I got to change this to be an improper fraction. So, with that, I'm going to do 1 times 4, which is 4, plus 3, which is 7. So 7, and then I keep the denominator. So now that I've done that, I can multiply this out now. So 1 times 7, 7. 3 times 4, 12. 7 and 12 don't divide into each other, we can't take anything out because 7's a prime. So that is simplest form, and you are done. 7/12. All right, so once again, every time you get a mixed number and you're multiplying fractions, you have to turn it into an improper fraction. That is your first step every time, no matter what. So we have 5 1/2 times 1/3. So like I said, we have to change the 5 1/2 into an improper fraction. To do that, I take the whole number, which is 5, times the denominator. So 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So my new numerator is 11. And I keep the same denominator, which is 2. So we have 11 over 2 times 1 over 3. So the numerators, like I said, multiply together. So 11 over 1, 11 times 1, and 2 times 3. So you get 11 over 6, which if we change it into a mixed number means 1 and 5 over 6. Remember, 6 goes into 11 one time. We take 6 away from the 11. We get 5 left over, and we keep the denominator. Okay, so let's do a couple more of these. So we're going to jump to page 285. So 285. Okay, so the directions say multiply and write in simplest form. So this first one here, number one, we have 1/2 times 2 1/3. So the first step I'm going to do is change it into an improper fraction. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So 7 goes on top, 3 is our denominator. So now I just multiply it out. 1 times 7, 7. 2 times 3, 6. So 7 over 6, or we got to change it into an the mixed number again, 1 1/6. So that's how you would do those. So when you have a mixed number, you have to change it to be an improper fraction. So like number 2. So the first step here, I'm going to take that 1 7/8 and change it to an improper fraction. So 1 times 8 is 8, plus 7 is 15. I keep the same denominator, times 4 over 5. So if you look at this one, like I taught you in the last lesson, you can simplify before you multiply. You don't have to do that. You're just going to get larger numbers to work with, and you are going to have to work that out. But I'm going to simplify before I multiply. So I look at 15 and 5. Well, 15 and 5 are both divisible by 5. So this becomes 3, that becomes 1. Now I look at the 4 and the 8. Well, they're both divisible by 4. That becomes 2, that becomes 1. So you actually have 3 over 2 times 1 over 1. Well, 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 1 is 2. Well, that's an improper fraction, so we change it back into a mixed number, which would be 1 1/2. So that's how you do that with a mixed number. The rules still apply here for fractions. You're still just multiplying the numerators, and then you're multiplying the denominators. So let's go back, and I want you guys to do A and B down at the bottom of page 282. So A and B, work them out, pause the video, and then come back and we'll do them together. So A and B. All right, now that you're back, letter A, we have 2/3 times 2 1/2. So like I said before, my first step is always change this mixed number into an improper fraction. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And I keep the same denominator. Now, I'm going to always simplify before I multiply. So 2 and 2, I can divide a 2 out. That becomes 1, that becomes 1. 3 and 5, there's nothing I can do, so I just multiply it out now. 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 1 is 3. So we get left with an improper fraction, so I'm going to change it into a mixed number. 3 goes into 5 one time. You're left with 2, and you keep the denominator. So that's how those work. Okay, letter B. All right, we have 3/8 times 3 1/3. So again, I'm going to change that mixed number into an improper fraction. So 3 times 3 would be 9, plus 1 is 10 over 3. Okay, once again, I'm going to simplify before I multiply this out. 3 and 3, I can divide a 3 out of both of those. So they both become 1. 8 and 10, they're not divisible by each other, but you can take a 2 out of both of these because they're both even. So that becomes 4, that becomes 5. So you get 1 times 5, 5. 4 times 1, 4. So we have an improper fraction again. So I change it back into a mixed number. 4 goes into 5 one time. You're left with 1/4. 1 1/4 or 5/4. Same number, but two different ways of way it's written. Okay, so that's A and B. Now, you're also going to see, like example number 3, where you have two mixed numbers. So nothing changes. In this case, you're just going to have to change both of them to be an improper fraction. So like this one, 1 7/8 times 3 1/3. So I'm going to change this first one to be an improper fraction. So 1 times 8 is 8, plus 7 is 15. And I keep the denominator, times. Now I'll do the same thing. 3 times 3 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10 over 3. Okay, I'm going to simplify before I multiply this out. So I'm going to start with the 15 and 3. Well, they're both divisible by 3. That becomes 5. That becomes 1. Now I'm going to do the 8 and 10. Like I just said on letter B, I can take a 2 out of both of these. So that becomes 4. That becomes 5. So now I have 5 over 4 times 5 over 1. So I'm going to multiply this out. 5 times 5, 25. 4 times 1, 4. Okay, so we get left with an improper fraction, so I'm going to change it to be a mixed number. So 4 goes in there 6 times. You take 24 away because 6 times 4 is 24, and you get left with 1/4. So 6 and 1/4. Okay, so still the same rules as multiplying fractions. It's just you have to turn it into an improper fraction first. Otherwise, it will not work out. So like number 4, the only difference here is a story problem. So the Hoover Dam contains 4.5 million cubic yards of concrete. The Grand Coulee Dam in Washington State contains 2 2/3 times as much concrete. How much concrete does it contain? Well, we're going to do 4.5 times 2 2/3. So since they're both mixed numbers, you have to write them as improper fractions. So they get 9 over 2 times 8 over 3. Well, they decided to simplify before they multiplied. So they know that 3 goes into to 3 and 9, so they divided by 3. So they get 1 on the bottom, 3 on the top. Then they did the 8 and the 2. Well, they divided by 2, so they get 1 down on the bottom, 4 at the top. Well, you do 3 over 1 times 4 over 1, that's 12. So there are 12 million cubic yards of concrete in the Grand Coulee Dam. Okay, so you're still doing the same rules, guys. It's just that you have to write them out and take that extra step of turning them into an improper fraction. So back on page 285. All right, I'm going to do number 4. So I have 1 2/3 times 1 1/4. So since they're both mixed numbers, I have to turn them into improper fractions. So the first one here, 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2, 5. Keep the denominator. Times 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1, 5 over 4. So if I look, 4 and 5 can't do anything, so they're simplified. 5 and 3 can't do anything, so it's simplified. So 5 times 5 is 25. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so we have an improper fraction, so I'm going to turn it into a mixed number. Well, 12 goes into 25 2 times. I'm left with 1, and I keep the denominator, 2 and 1/12. All right, so let's look at number 6. Okay, number 6, we have 6 2/3 times 3 3/10. So I'm going to change them both into improper fractions. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 2 is 20. 3 times 10 is 30, plus 3 is 33. Okay, so if you were to multiply this out without simplifying before you multiplied, you are going to get very large numbers. Okay, this is why I like to multiply this out or simplify before I multiply, because it makes things a lot easier. You get smaller numbers you get to work with, like this. So if I did 10 and 20, those are both divisible by 10. So I'm going to divide by 10. So that becomes 2, that becomes 1. Now, 33 and 3 are both divisible by 3. So I'm going to divide a 3 out now. That becomes 1, that becomes 11. So I have 2 over 1 times 11 over 1. A lot easier numbers to work with than 20 times 33 and 3 times 10. This shortcut just makes things a little bit easier on you guys. So now I just multiply. 2 times 11 is 22. 1 times 1 is 1. Well, that means it's a whole number, so it's just 22. All right, so let's go back, and I want you guys to do letter C down at the bottom of page 283. So pause the video, work through this problem, and then come back and we'll do it together. All right, now that you're back, letter C says, Mr. Wilkins is laying bricks to make a rectangular patio. The area he is covering with bricks is 15.5 feet by 9 3/4 feet. What is the area of the patio? Remember, area is just length times width. So we're just multiplying these two together. 15.5 times 9 3/4. So, like I've been saying this entire time, the first step here is to change these into improper fractions. So 15 times 2 is 30, plus 1 is 31 over 2. And then 9 times 4 is 36, plus 3 is 39 over 4. So I look to see if I can simplify these. Unfortunately, 4 and 31 don't work together. 39 and 2 don't work together. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply these out. So 31 times 39. That'd be 9, 27, 3, 9. So 1,209 over 8. Okay, so now we're going to have to divide this out. All right, so let's see if it divides out evenly. 8 doesn't go to 1, so we're going to have to do out of 12. That'd be 1 time. Subtract, you get 4. Bring down the 0. Well, that'd be 5. So 40, 0, bring down the 9. That'd be 1 time. Okay, so my whole number is the 151. What my remainder is my numerator, and we keep the denominator. And remember, since this is area, we have to label feet squared. So the area of this patio is actually 151 1/8 feet squared. Okay? So that's how you work these out. So all you're doing is multiplying whole numbers, or mixed numbers here, guys. So mixed numbers, just change them into improper fractions, multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, simplify if you have to.